Hi everyone, and welcome back to Irish Footy Vlogs. This week I'm joined by Damien, who is a Galway United fan. Damien, thanks so much for coming on to the show.
A pleasure, Darren, and hope you're keeping well yourself.
Absolutely great. That's brilliant to have you on. So we're going to look at Galway United and a preview for their season coming ahead. So obviously, Damien, just looking back at last season, second place finish. Didn't manage to go up in the playoffs. It's mad with this league. They finished fourth and still go up and have a chance of going up. And Galway were very unlucky not to go up, I suppose, last season.
Yeah, you could say that. Obviously, the club decided to go full time and kind of basically, kind of try to push for promotion as best we could. We've obviously overall we kind of signed fairly well, but just looking at second place, Shelburne were probably the better team in the end, and we wish them well in the season ahead in the Premier Division. So, but obviously, I think there was about 12 to 14 points between ourselves and Bray, I think, in the end, and. Uh, we drew 0-0 in the Carlisle grounds, probably dominated the majority of the game. Had a lot of chances, probably didn't put them away. Unfortunately, Rory Keaton had 2 or 3. He had a great header there. So I think he probably should have put it away. We dominated the game, and then in Terland again, and our aim at DC, you want to call it now. I mean, so used to be called Terland now for the last few years, But it was just disappointing, after dominating the 2 games to kind of to lose out narrowly with the scoreline. So, but you have to rebuild again. And John Caulfield, he signed a new contract, and we go again this season. So please God, we'll be thereabouts again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I actually thought last season you had a very good season. Obviously, you were gone full time, and you had a lot of wins. And if you weren't really winning, you were drawing. It's very few losses, and like you touched on it all there. It's just such a shame that God didn't go up. It would have been great, having another club outside of Dublin, because both have some mad stat, actually, something like next 12 games or something are like inside Dublin. I think it's some mad stat like that. I may look it up to be sure, but there's the Dublin teams, there's the Louth teams, and it's just Derry and Harps in the Premier Division at the moment. And then you look at the first division, you've got likes of Cork, you got Cove, you got Longford, you got Galway, you got a few Dublin teams then. So you got Athlone. It's a good mix in the first division, spread out geographically wise. So it would have been great to have another team outside the Leinster region in it. But hopefully this season will be the season now to do it. And I suppose another thing though as well, 9 teams in this division. Very quickly, what do you think of that? It's a shame, I think, that there's only 9 teams in this league, and every week someone's going to be idle.
Yeah, like obviously last week ourselves were the idle team, as I say, and you always kind of look at the other results and you see like the Cork City who were playing this week, this Friday, hitting 6 past Bray, but look, if you look at it, it's a strange one now. The 9 teams, and you still have the 5, like five of these teams are going into obviously the first, the rest of the 4 are going into a playoff. So
Yeah.
so it's kind of a mad really in a way, like so it's kind of. I think it's actually a tougher division this time around. Obviously, Waterford have signed well. Cork have signed well as well this year. And even the likes of Wexford. I know they didn't do justice against Treaty, but the likes of Treaty have signed well. So it's going to be probably a more competitive division this year than last season, I think, really. Because being realistic, if you look at last season, Shelburne ran away with it. And we were kind of fairly comfortable towards the end of the season coming second, but so hopefully it'll be a bit more competitive, a bit more tougher. But as you said, like for fans wise, there's a lot of travelling there, like down to Cork, down to Cove. You have a long trip to from Galway to Waterford, Wexford. So there's a fair old travelling involved in it as well.
Yeah, there is. I suppose we go to the transfers now and just looking at the outs, I think, so far. So obviously Gorman's gone, Place is gone, Conlon's gone. I suppose the one that jumps out for me is Keaton. He's gone obviously to Cork. He has some really good stats. At this level anyway. Just 20 goals, 9 assists in 48 appearances. Obviously, he scored for Cork very recently, and you play Cork next. I don't know. It's going to be very hard, to try and fill his shoes. I think for Galway, because I think he was very good for you.
Yeah, but if you look at these stats, I think a lot of them are from a lot from set plays and penalties. So obviously from score from play wasn't nearly a problem last season in a way. So obviously he will be a huge loss. But I think on the other end of the field, the other side of the pitch, I think probably Morris Newton is probably a bigger loss really than Keating, in my opinion. But obviously Keating, well, he did get a couple of vital goals in fairness to himself, so we'll give him credit for that. So, but there's when it came to the fight, I think there wasn't enough, a bit of fight or battling him really towards the end of the season. Probably could have done a bit more, So, but still, it's a huge loss in fairness. So he will. But time will tell how this season we could be missing him. And I'm sure, no doubt, he'll want to get one over and score a goal in Turner's Cross against us on Friday night.
Yeah, and we'll look ahead to that game now very soon, because that's obviously going to be interesting talking point as well. I suppose looking at the rivals then into the club, I forgive my pronunciation of a few of these players now, but Adiemo of Drogheda that came in, Hemmings is obviously in, Portilla is in, and Dimas, a centre back I think he is in. What do you know about these signings? I hope you've seen them in pre-season so far. What do you think of them?
Yeah, so I have to say now, looking at the few signings that were there, Diego Portilla stands out as a centre half. He's very solid. Obviously, John Caulfield and obviously his representatives went over to Spain, and I think they scouted about 25 players there just before the Christmas.
Wow.
And they signed Diego.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, so they've scouted a fair amount outside of Ireland, and so you have the likes of Diego Portilla. It looks like a serious find, whereas the other end is Dimas. Manu Dimas is probably still finding his feet at the minute. He's probably Caulfield probably still finding his role in the team as well. Obviously, when you have the likes of Wilson Wawero, and then obviously our new recruit from Drogheda, Jordan Adameo as well. So he's like he can play. With the likes of Jordan Adameo, he can play on the left or he can play on the right of a front three as well, and obviously centre forward as well. So to try to fit them all into the system and finding the best kind of first 11 that can challenge for the title as well. So that'll be a big challenge for likes of John Caulfield and Colin Fortune as assistant manager. So but it's when you lose likes of Keating and when you get a Premier Division starlet for a young, exciting, promising player like Jordan Adameo, it's a good business, really.
Yeah, and obviously, like, you've got a few other very good players in the team that's already there. Obviously, the goalie McCabe he's a very solid keeper. At this level anyway, I think he is, and obviously Murphy, the young centre back, which has been widely looked at throughout the league and from abroad, is obviously being talked about, and he's a very good player. And obviously Keaton, who's famously Manning, who's famously Ryan Manning's brother, is also a good player at this level, and he's been with Galway the last number of years. So it's good that you've kind of kept a core of your team, and it looks like you've added some real quality for this level anyway at the team. And John Coffey is a vastly experienced manager, and I'm sure he'll get the best out of him.
Yeah, like if you look at like the goalkeeper Conor Kearns, very good keeper. They've actually
sorry, I said
Kearns, yeah. And then the back four has just been it's from strength to strength. Conor O'Keefe had a great season last season. They've re-signed obviously Killian Bruder, Diego Portillo probably slot in the likes alongside him there, and then you have Alex Murphy fighting for his left back with Stephen Walsh, and then you have a couple of young lads like Oisin O'Reilly, Charlie Lyons of Cove have signed as well. So there's a couple of young lads coming brought in, and obviously Charlie Lyons a bit of experience with Cove. He's played a good few games under his belt, with League of Ireland. So the likes of them now, that'll bring a bit more experience as well. So obviously Diego Portilla still has to find his feet into league. It's a different standard when you're playing in the likes of Spain. It could be a slower tempo, it could be less physical, but he seems to be a big find. So he'll be a promising one to watch. And obviously we all know the likes of Conor O'Keefe, he can get up and down that right wing. So he'll be I'd be very pleased with the likes of the back four and goalkeepers resigning. And then when you look at the midfield, you've re-signed Conor McCormack, the likes of David Hurley, Gary Boylan.
Conor McCormack's obviously vastly experienced. He's 31, and nearly about the squad is very early 20s. So he's obviously putting the average age of the squad right up, and it's only him, I think, and you'd know someone else who's like late 20s, early 30s in the squad. Everyone else is very, very young.
Yeah, like he's the probably the oldest in the squad, really. Like as a 32-year-old myself, I feel it's young. It's still young in a way, but. I know. Hopefully, he's the standout guy now in the team. The captain. So he's going to be it's going to be a big season for him, and he'll want to make up for last season. He didn't come down to Galway just to sit and retire in the division into the Division 1. So he'll want another crack at the Premier Division, and hopefully it'll be with Galway United.
Yeah, hopefully so. Obviously, if whoever finishes first goes straight up and then into the playoffs, so it's going to be very interesting for Galway and every other team involved. I suppose for yourself, then, is there any positional concerns you have in the team? Because we've spoken very positively about the players that Galway have brought in, who you've kept the core of the team, and how the shape, how it's going to look. A few of the very young players coming through are very promising. Obviously, finished second last season, was really good. So it's not a good thing, but is there any kind of positional concerns that you might have as a fan of Galway?
Yeah, definitely. There's one or two. Like if you look at last season, like Caulfield in the first 8 games, he didn't really know his first 11 or his formation. So he was kind of switching formations between in the first 8 games, and there was no kind of there wasn't really a settled formation or team. So it was just kind of chopping and changing. I remember I think going to Athlone. I know Athlone hammers off the pitch. I think it was a 4-1. So it was it was disappointing, and I think that was the defining part of the season, really, the first 8 games. We dropped a good few points, and then he settled on formation, and then it kind of brought us on a bit forward, and we went on a good run. Obviously, the full-time setup kind of did a world of good to us as well. We knew going into the later on in the season, the legs and the fitness will be there, against the part-time side, the part-time teams, really, like the likes of the Wexfords and all these, and at loan, so it's the key is, I think, is probably to get a settled formation. I would worry we have very little wingers, if we are going to. You have young, Shane Doherty, Mikey Rowe there, but Shane Doherty's probably the only winger on the team off the 26-man squad. Mikey Rowe is probably he will do a job on the wing, but he's more of a number 10. He's a workhorse. He'll put in a really good shift. Along with Shane Doherty, but I'd be wary of the weight. We could be a bit too narrow down the middle. We're very very strong. You have your likes of Diego Portilla. You have Killian Bruder, Conor McCormack, Dave Hurley, Wilson Muwero, so it's very strong on the middle, and I remember even, the likes of Alex Murphy can play in a few positions, he can play centre back, he can actually play centre midfield. I think he played centre midfield in the cup game against Shamrock Rovers and Tella last season as well, so I would worry about the wings, is he going to use Jordan Adameo as a kind of a fast paced winger in the front three, it's going to there's a lot of kind of questions to ask John Caulfield what formation he's going to use. Has to hit the ground running. Us Galway fans, we've suffered a lot now, so we want to kind of hit the ground running. We always seem to start seasons kind of fairly poorly, So
Yeah,
that'd be my only worry.
Like you said, even last season, it took him about 8 games actually to get his number, 1 to 11, and his formation sorted out. Still finished second, so it shows that he did get right in the end. Obviously, didn't go up. Sounding from the positions there, he might try and play with inverted wingers or inside forwards, if you will. Maybe having 2 or 3 strikers done at once. A lot of firepower, but like you said, then you could lack it on the wings going back, so it could be exposed there. Especially if you're playing a team likes to cross the ball in and use their wingers, it might be a bit of a mismatch. That might be a potential weakness for Galway this season. Very interesting points, I think, as well.
Yeah, because even if you look last season, now you had Conor McCormack and Gary Boylan. They sat deep themselves, where David Hurley was the number 10.
Yeah,
He wasn't, and now in pre-season so far, David Hurley's gone back into the deeper position, and he's pinging balls over the top, so that could be a good kind of danger point, when you have a bit of pace on the wings. There's young Edward McCarthy, good signing as well, so he'll have a bit of pace, and he's well able to get down the wing, and then you have Adamay on the other wing, so it could be an exciting, pacey front three as well, and you have Wilson Muwero, he's strong, he can if he can improve to hold up the ball, and it could be a promising season in the front three. It could be a lot of pace.
Yeah, there could be. I suppose then for this season, last season we had Shelburne who just ran away with the league, so finishing first probably wasn't a realistic expectation, but finishing second was, and you reached that, but obviously didn't go up. And I think for this season, I speak for yourself, probably everyone, saying this is the season you want to go up, and Waterford will probably be the team that's probably going to finish first. The pressure's on them. The expectation is that they will finish first, and if you can finish first ahead, then that's absolutely brilliant. But I don't believe you'll win the first division, but I would certainly be tipping you to finish second and maybe go up. Obviously, it depends on the day, it depends on playoffs, it depends on who you get. But I'd be hoping that he'd go up this season or finish second again. But what's your expectation, and what's a good season for Galway United?
Yeah, like every season, you always kind of you look at the bit of hope, and as you know, after the loss against Bray, a lot of the fans turned around to, I'd rather go up as champions next year, so there was a bit of hope. Being realistic, like we all want to go up, we all want to win a trophy. It's been so long for Galway United to not win a trophy, and it's broken a lot of fans, and it's broken the club, So obviously we lost a League Cup final against the Pats and penalties. That was a probably last final we're in. That was 2005 at that stage. I think it was could have been a bit later now, but uh, being realistic, second would be a good position. Waterford looks strong. Would be like
I'm not saying it's impossible that you can't win the league. By no means am I saying that. I'm just saying, realistically, I would expect Waterford to finish first. That's me personally, but
yeah. Look,
I would
like I
expect you to
think
finish second.
like last season's squad, if you look at it, it could be like a bit more stronger than this year's squad. So
Yeah,
obviously, so probably recruitment was a bit more difficult to kind of. I think a lot of even Ollie Horgan came out saying the signings were very hard to come by this season. So I think a lot of clubs were, it was very hard to get signings in, and I think a lot of clubs went abroad. You see a lot of like the Premier Division clubs getting these loanies from I think Pat's brought in the keeper from West Ham and all these. So it's being realistic, you have to look at the top two. If you don't get if you don't, second will probably be the least. Second, you'd be happy with second, I would. But obviously, hard to want to go up with champions.
or fourth and go up into the
Well,
into the Premier League.
I take that any day of the week as well. I don't just stick it up in the Premier Division, but being realistic, you'd be happy to come with second and get a very good draw in the playoffs. My heart was always says go up with champions. We deserve we deserve a good celebration and a trophy. But I'd be happy with second.
Yeah. So I suppose the last thing we'll probably look at then is obviously your first match of the season against Cork, who absolutely thumped the opposition last week, but they'll have moved on from that and be fully focused on Galway and getting one over John Caulfield. What's your thoughts on this one? It's obviously going to be a hard one with Cork, but we rocking in confidence.
Yeah, like it's always tough to go down to Turner's Cross. Galway United are just looking at their away record from other clubs. We've a horrid record in Turner's Cross, in the showgrounds, in Shamrock, away to Shamrock Rovers and away to Dundalk. I think they're our first. They're our top four kind of worst away records. So I've been down to Turner's Cross many times, and we've been kind of one or two draws here and there, but it's very. It's been a very poor ground to visit. It's obviously it's a top class ground in fairness, but just an awful record. And I think it's the first home game for Cork City. They'll have a bumper crowd down there, so it's going to be extra tougher. You have the crowd against Jay straight away. Hopefully we'll have 100 to 150 Galway United fans out there to make a bit of noise.
Yeah.
But I think John Caulfield, he's kind of could line up. He could surprise a few of us with a few off his team selection as well. So it'll be interesting to see now. But it's going to be. I'd happily take a draw. We've a very tough first few games. We've Waterford at home next after Cork. I think we've Bray away then after that. So you're basically playing the top first three games. You're playing the top three. That are looking to go to get promoted as well. So I'd be happy with a draw and hopefully get a good win against Waterford at home, and then I'd be happy with 5 points in the first three games.
Yeah, and I actually think that's a very fair, realistic expectation as well from Galway, and I think it's certainly achievable. Damien, it was great having you on. Thanks for coming on to the channel. Best of luck to Galway United this season, and best of luck against Cork. Thanks for everyone watching the video. Please like and subscribe if you're new, and hit your bell notifications, and comment below and let us know where you think Galway will finish this season and what you think of their signings. Cheers, Damien.
Thanks, Darren. We'll chat to you soon. Okay, be careful.